It's the story that y'all told me yesterday whenever we were talking was just so inspiring, and I was even reading it on the article that you sent me, Angel, and it was just you're right. Stories do sell. Can you tell us? But before we go into that, sorry, tell us a little bit about the event you guys have going on tomorrow for the people listening that don't know, what you guys know.
Yeah, most definitely. So tomorrow there's a Web3 startup crawl at Capital Factory in Austin. Um, it's based on cryptocurrency. So a lot of the organizations and businesses that are involved in crypto have a booth, and we'll explain their story and explain their brand. And for us, it was important because as a brand, Prompt Video wants to be in everyone's story and learn about everyone's story. And so we had to show we're dynamic. Um, and so one of the items that everyone likes to talk about is crypto, and that's one of the topics that makes everyone excited. And so we're like, okay, let's go to a crypto startup crawl and see what people are talking about. If they can tell us what their story is, why they're involved with crypto, what's their favorite crypto. Um, and so learning about those people and giving them a platform and a tool to help them tell that story.
Okay, that's cool. And so why did you go? So you said talking about excitement with crypto and stuff like that. Why this move particular with the company that does prompt video?
Do you want to go for that?
Are you asking the question in terms of why prompt video in the connection with this event and crypto?
Yes, yes, yes. The why you came up with this particular event.
Yeah.
Well, the simple answer is because it just happened to fall when we looked at like, oh, we're in the stage of our product development that we should do an event to do some beta testing. Or like, what's available? And we look at the startup community in Austin, and this was a big event that was happening there at Capital Factory at the Omni Hotel, where this community is based. That's inviting the greater startup community that's in this space to connect to each other, to know about what's going on within this space, and we just want to be a part of that energy.
Yeah, I think we are involved with a few startup communities. One being Capital Factory in Austin. They provide mentorship, co-working space, and then the last part is events, like tomorrow. And so they've been really helpful for us to find people that are open-minded, and they're going through their own journeys and they're open to hearing other people's journeys. So that environment where they're all open-minded is really functional for us to get feedback and test our product. And a lot of those people have stories like yourselves and us, like-minded entrepreneurs that are on their journey. They need to tell their story and share their challenges and share their successes both. And so people at this event are doing the same. Just they're all bonded in their own community through crypto.
They're not shy. Most entrepreneurs and people in this space, especially crypto, are not shy of sharing why they're in that space. And
100%.
You're like, why are you doing that? They're like, you're going to hear like all their ideas about whatever is going on.
They'll probably ask you what's in your wallet, right?
Yeah.
Well, no, you're not far from that. My new book, Love Your Crypto, and I'm talking to everybody about it. Crypto. Anytime I invest, I lose everything. They are very loud, but that's good for you guys because it makes it easier to get feedback. You get honest feedback from people that are like-minded, just like you.
Yeah, and that's exactly something we started to chase, right? Angel and I met December 10th in Geekdom in San Antonio, and I walked up on stage like two twins that get to argue about the 30 seconds extra they have in the world. I had 30 seconds extra to walk up on stage and say, let's create a brand to tell better stories. And then Angel walked up 30 seconds later and said, you had me at stories. And
oh my gosh,
part of that journey was to understand what is honest feedback, right? What is a story, and how do we know a story is true? How do we pull that story out of someone? And that's something we've been working on since then.
Yeah. And I think it's also good to point out there's a lot of people in this world doing a lot of different things. And there's a lot of people that are going to be the naysayers that are going to say it can't be done or be critical. And I think it's important that when you're on a journey like the journey we're on, like the journey a lot of these folks that we're going to run into in the startup community in the crypto space, they soldier on, and it's important to share your ideas and the things that you're trying to get feedback with people that are like-minded in that tribe that can give good constructive criticism versus just being a-holes or like they're people like they're just they push your energy down, and you need people to invigorate each other like steel sharpens steel, right? It's like it's a collaborative energy of a win-win. You know, you share each other's story, you connect each other, you build each other up, and that's what's exciting about this space.
And wouldn't you say that most people are afraid of that feedback?
People are afraid of both, right? Giving feedback and taking feedback oftentimes, right? And where prompt video fits in for us is that as an app, we're trying to create a privatized channel for that, right? Where a brand or a group of people can ask for feedback, get feedback, and it doesn't have to be out in public, right? No one knows that you guys are communicating. No one knows that they gave you that feedback. But if you do respect that feedback, if you do want that feedback, you can create that feedback loop. That's really important to us as a brand.
I love
and
that.
And have content that can go into your content marketing strategy to use this promotional material to be able to push your brand out. So I think it's there's multiple purposes in what prompt video is doing.
So how is version 9 doing?
I think last time we talked is now version 12.
Yeah.
There's always a new version, but I think it's doing well, right? So product development is complicated, right? Looking backwards, it's easy to take a product that's successful and say, you should have just put a profile picture and put a wall and made people only request people from a certain university and create Facebook, right?
Yeah.
But when you're doing it from scratch, when you have a blank wall or a blank whiteboard like the one behind us, there's no guidelines. The guidelines are people. The guidelines are those feedback that we talked about, right? And so you almost have to build something, draw a line, and then see if anyone cares.
Right. Okay.
Are they angry? Are they sad? Do they like it? Do they hate it? And why? And so that's why there are 12 versions of the app, right? We drew
now 12. I saw the video. It was 9. Sorry, it's evolved since.
It's now 12, but it's growing, right?
That's good.
But I think it's the point of we try something, we build something, we share it with a few people, we see what bothers them, we see what excites them, which we have a few videos on our site on that. Bados written a couple of blog articles about that. When you see them light up or you see them angry, either way it's helpful, right? Either way it's that honest feedback you were talking about,
right?
Because it's irked them, it's hit them somewhere.
And then Gurk and I, we're co-founders with different skill sets and experiences, but are able to have these healthy debates to where we've listed, okay, this version of prompt video, we've gotten feedback from here, and here. And so I maybe jump it off, or he jumps it off and says, I believe strongly that this person and this and this. And then I'm like, well, that's not what I heard. I heard this and this. And so then we try to come up with some kind of what is the good information? What do we need to dismiss and say, well, that's for later. That's for version 300 when we're $1 billion company.
Love that.
But right now, how do we launch and have something that has maximum value, right? That has the least amount of friction so that someone can use it and go like, yeah, this is cool. It brings value to me and to my brand. And it doesn't, It
doesn't cost me time, doesn't cost me money, right? I think that was another important thing to us. Angel and I believe in a lot of values, right? And I think that's what has maybe made us what I believe as a successful partnership in business, right? Is we make our decisions based off values. And we discussed early on, what are the values you want to build a business on? And I think equality was one of the ones that touched home to both of us.
Yeah.
In
Right.
quality, in what sense? Sorry.
A lot of different senses. I would think
Uh-huh.
gender equality, race equality, right? All those kind of equalities. We felt that in the business community, there's a disparity between those,
Mhm.
and that
Mhm.
those that have money create good videos and have great advertisements. But if you go to small businesses in a racially diverse area or a gender diverse area, you might not be able to get that same kind of video, and their stories aren't represented as well, right?
Right.
And so
Okay.
when discussing, all right, what should the product do so where we can make that a little more even, we said the average customer should spend time, not money. Because I don't know if anyone's seen Bill Gates documentary. I think Angel and I both
Yeah.
watched it. And Bill
Yes.
Gates talks about Bill Gates has 24 hours a day.
It's the
And so
same
do
time. Yeah.
so do you, right?
Right.
So that's an equality factor. If we don't do things based on money and we do things based on time, then everyone's starting on the same page, right?
That is
There's
awesome.
this equal factor. And so I think that's what we try to include in prompt video, that anyone can create videos. Creating videos free, because we want to keep that equality, right? You can create as many videos as you want in prompt video, and you can tell your story and your opinion, and that doesn't require money.
Right.
And I think it's also from the standpoint of simple economics is it'd be one thing if like we're launching here in America, and if America was just a box of crayons that was just two colors, right? It was like
That's fun.
aqua and orange. That's it. But if the leadership of that's creating, that had the money and had the leadership to create products, if they were just creating aqua and orange products, right? That's fine. But America is like it's just a big
I
box
want more.
of diversity, right?
Yeah.
So if it's diversity, then we need to take in input from as many diverse sources as possible. So whether that's talking to businesses from different backgrounds and ethnicities and gender equality and different things,
Yeah, industries.
or just some of the mentorship is like we find articles, we're sharing articles like, hey, this article was posted on Twitter, and this gal that's running this wonderful company has shared this, and what she says about video content and the future or whatever. And so we go back and forth taking all this input, and then we have to dissect it down to like, okay, what's the priority for how that affects the next version of prompt video?
And that last decision gets made based on the value.
Yeah.
Right? What is the value that you're going to make that decision on?
Yeah, that prism we hold up and go, what's our mission statement? What are our core values?
Does it align?
And comes up as a core value is collaboration first, right? And so a lot of business is competitive, where there's a win-lose, like and I believe like in a game of basketball, they're like the Celtics are either going to win or they're going to lose, right? It's not like everybody gets like participation trophies. I don't believe in that. I do believe that there is a space for competitiveness. However, I think sometimes the pendulum is swung sometimes in the business and the startup realm and product services out there to where it's almost predatory at times and too competitive, to where we need to be collaborative, which is how do we find a win-win between businesses and the communities and the consumers and things, so that everybody wins. How can it happen though everybody wins?
Yeah.
Right. I noticed that, and I'm not, obviously don't know as much as you in startups. I've kind of dabbled in it, done a few competitions and stuff, and I would say that wouldn't you say that it's the beginning that of that entrepreneur that creates that competition, and then later on you learn that collaborative works better? Or do most people get it at the first try? What do you think about that?
I think it's just how people perceive it, right? So let's just say Angel and I start two lawn mowing companies, right? We both just moved to Austin. I know of Angel. Maybe Angel's made a post on Facebook. I'm starting a lawn mowing company. And I made an Instagram post. And now we know of each other. Oftentimes, I think they're like, oh man, we're competitors, right? And we might be Facebook friends. So now all our Facebook friends know about each other, and it's how many of our Facebook friends do I get and how many of our Facebook friends do you get.
Yes.
And
Yes.
what he's saying is that there could be an option where we say, hey, if there's someone too far for me to go mow my lawn, I'm going to give you a call and give you a referral, and you can give me referrals, and maybe we divide and conquer or whatever have you, right? There are
Mm.
ways that if you are open-minded enough in startup worlds where you can collaborate and you can find a way where two businesses, even in the same exact service, can
Mhm.
provide benefits to each other to where both win and both can
Okay.
still grow.
And the community then benefits because they have nicer lawns.
Yeah, they have nice salons.
Right. 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 And a bigger company that takes care of them.
Yeah, and it's not
Technically.
predatory, right?
Yeah.
We're not like, man, you got your lawn mowed by him, done, no more customer, right?
Right. Right.
There
Okay.
are conversations to be had of how two companies can work together to benefit each other, and oftentimes I think the moment someone invades your space, you're like, oh, we're competitors, we're done, no more.
100%.
We're unliking you on Facebook.
Yeah.
We're unfollowing you on Instagram. It's over. It's
Yes.
fight now, right? And I
Yes.
think we've tried, no matter if it's different cities, different startup communities, to be uh, represented in all of them and try to help all of the startups we touch or interact with, right? That, hey, if Angel can help in video creation for you, or if I can help interview a technical co-founder for you or a developer for you, just give a shout,
Mhm.
right? We'll figure
Right.
out how we can be more helpful later. But if that's all you need, I mean, Angel and I will figure out some time to
It,
make that happen.
because you're particular with technology. You're really good at coding, and you're really good at AWS. You're
Yep.
pretty good at managing that, and a bunch of other things that you do, startups that you've done previously. So where's I going with this? You what is the technical side, like the technology side, from your aspect? What is what that makes a product really good?
Well, so there are two things, right? I would say one, well, there are three. So one, I would say the keyword that people use is data-driven product development,
Which
which Angel and I
is
have been focused a lot about recently,
Yeah.
right? It's making people show you what they want versus guessing, right? So what I mean by that is I can um, I can start a bar and I can make whiskey drinks only, and I can say whiskey drinks are the best drinks in the world, or I can open a bar that has vodka, whiskey, tequila, and do tastings of each and every one
to
every
see
single
which one
night
they like.
and wait to see what they say, right? And if people are like, every time I come to this bar, I love the tequila setup, then maybe I should be a tequila bar, right? And so data driven development is saying that based on the data that someone is using your product, you make decisions instead of I'm just going to make a decision and then prove it out later. So I think that's part one. And
Okay.
then part two is test driven and business driven development, which is that you start with the problem, right? Normally in tech, business people come to tech people and say, I have this problem. And usually, we hope as tech people, the business person doesn't try to tell you what technology to use. They just tell you the problem, right?
Right.
I need my images to load faster. I need a website that does this. And then you figure out the tech from there.
Uh-huh.
And I think those two parts usually make pretty reputable product, pretty sustainable product, right?
Okay.
Where you don't hopefully overbuild, you don't hopefully just guess, right?
You can overbuild.
You can overbuild.
I didn't know that.
We have a lot of products that we know today that overbuild. I would even argue Facebook and Instagram have overbuilt, right?
Okay. Okay.
They're very busy.
I miss the early Facebook. I
It
mean,
was simpler.
It was simpler.
yeah, it was simpler.
I think Instagram this week or last week started you can pin top 3 comments in the
I
comment
saw
section,
that. Yeah. What's
and you
that
gotta
about?
swipe left or right. And it's like, cool, but do I need it? Who's the person that brought that problem? Where's the data that tells you that this was necessary? I don't know, but I think that goes to the feedback, right? Transparency and feedback. If we knew who was telling them and how many people are asking for this,
Right.
it'd be a little easier to understand why you're making random features that I would never really use.
I mean, I guess it sounds cool and it sounds ideal. Like, oh, I get to pin my top photos, but it's like Twitter's doing that already. The pinning stuff, I think.
Yeah, but pinning a tweet was because people tweet a lot. Angel's on Twitter a lot.
Yeah. And I do tend to pin the latest article, the blog article, let's say written that I want people to see it, or because it's leading up to an event, and then release it.
Yeah.
But if you have, sometimes we have like these scheduled content posts, right? And they're just kind of content lives for a while and then goes away. But if you want priority to be given, I believe in that pin.
But comments aren't something that should be like that, right? In my opinion. But that goes to all that, where there's so many features and you don't know who the problem is or what the problem is. And so that's what overbuilding is. And oftentimes we've overbuilt, right?
Yeah.
We're not perfect.
Some of our versions were definitely like are for down the road that we had to pull back.
How do you figure that out, though? How do you figure that out?
You show it to someone and they do the same thing we just talked about Instagram, right?
Okay,
they're like, I don't.
Who told you to do this?
Right,
and you're like, we know you're gonna want this, and they're like,
feedback.
But I'm not asking for it, right? And so then you're like, oh, maybe we built something you haven't asked for yet. We haven't seen the data yet to show this. We just guessed, and so we pull those things back out. We're like, at a later date, if someone asks for this feature, we'll pull it back in. But clearly, we need to simplify, and simplicity is also, I guess, one of the values we sort of go on.
Well, it's in our name, right? Prompt is fast, and prompt's direction, and just simple. The quickest way from point A to point B is a straight line. So, we're trying to live that.
Prompt video, prompt has two parts, right? Prompt is I'm prompting you a question, like you prompting us today.
Yeah,
and then prompt is speed, and we hopefully acquire both, but oftentimes some people based on their experience will think of one over the other, right? Prompt as fast, or prompt as prompting you a question to get a video.
And then what is the direct videos from our community is if there's like a sentence that kind of sums up also what prompt video is. Direct videos from our community. Direct also is a double entendre of direct, like a director, I'm going to direct you, but also direct, the quickest the quickest way from point A to point B is a straight line. Is just
direct.
Okay. I mean, I was watching y'all's, the testing and the beta testing and all the demos and stuff like that, and that's what you're doing. The company is that, isn't it? That's what it is?
Yeah, it's getting feedback from the community, right? And I think the first few betas we did it in person, right? Like training wheels. Right. Well, you don't let it just start riding the bike from the start. You got to put some training wheels on and watch it. And I think that's what we did. So we built a version of the app. We gave it to a bunch of people that never heard about us or never really seen the product. And we're saying, go make video. Right. And Angel did a great job with the direction in the product and the content in the product. And people read it and they were like, I know what to do. I know what to say. Oftentimes when we ask people why they don't make video, they often say we don't want to look stupid, right?
Right.
And so we're like, hey, we'll direct you, right?
I don't know. I'll be like, what do you want me to say?
And that's the whole thing, right? If you ask a question, usually they'll have a more pointed answer. And at the same time, I think video is special too. Angel talked how we have different specialties, right? Angel, a creative savant in my eyes. Filmmaker, director, actor, British pop star, right? He's done
the whole shebang. He's got the whole menu.
But when we talk about making a video, in the beginning, we talked about feedback and making videos, right? And Angel would ask me in a prompt, like, how'd you hear about us? Or something like that. Very common feedback question for businesses.
Yeah.
And I would just say, Facebook.
Yeah.
Hey, Facebook, thumbs up. Like, good job, right? You got
like your
feedback. But then when you watch back the video, all it says is Facebook thumbs up, and you can't really context. You have no context, right? And so Angel Hope showed me like you should regurgitate the question in your answer because you don't know where the video will be played and whether someone's identifying the question, right?
Yeah. So I gotta ask this. So Angel, was this your original idea, or was this Gurkaran's idea, or did they just come together because of at the?
Yeah. I mean, it was. We were both in the storytelling space.
It's shared.
Yeah, and we just kind of hashed it out together.
There's definitely no origin, right? I think I pitched a storytelling brand when I got on stage, but that's not prompt video, right? Prompt video is a concept Angel and I have debated amongst a lot of coffee and tequila in the last 6 months. Right? Every night it's a different debate and a different topic and a different item. We have a variety of things we've talked about, right? Like, so logos. Logos was another thing. I think it started like you talk about relationships, right? Your first fight. I think in my perspective, the logo was the first time we had a long time to not agree, right? It was our first, like, oh crap, like we're gonna have to figure this out, and it's not just a quick decision. I think everything else was really quick. When we got to the logo and we drew different P's for prompt, and Angel likes certain ones and I like certain ones. Mm-hmm. We really valued we came up with this story of Atilda. Right? Atilda's story.
Okay, yes, I saw that. I love that story. Can you tell that, please?
Yeah, Angel, go for it.
Yes, so, and nobody knows the origin of this. This is as close to what I think, based on research, is that we came across, we started talking about symbols and things that have representation, right? For instance, like I do news releases for public relations, and I've done that for my job in the past for others, and I do that now in my creative agency. And I remember first sharing with Gurk that the bottom of a press release back in the day, and actually some PR folks still do it, is they put hashtags, 3 hashtags at the bottom of the news release.
Okay.
I don't know if you've come across that.
I've never even noticed.
So now you can Google what does 3 hashtags at the bottom of a news release mean.
Okay.
Right, and it means the end. So the hashtag is like also an X, which is like a 3, or a 10, which 3 tens is 30. Actually, I think Rolling Rock has some connection to publication. So like I think at the bottom of Rolling Rock, it'll have
3 hashtags.
It'll say 30.
Okay, there you go.
So either it's a 30 or it's 3 hashtags at the bottom of news releases to say that's the end of the news release. There's no more copy. So back when it was like fax machines, right, that were sending, that's the way news releases were transmitted.
Yeah.
Or when it finally got electronically, you always had that 30 or the 3 hashtags to symbolize something. And from there, I think it came like when he was
Is there a symbol that we can represent for ourselves for prompt video? And I was like, well, Atilda is like saving space, right? It's a sound overall, right? It's a sound that would take you many characters to write. And so then Angel researched it and found this story and then expanded upon it.
Yeah. So it comes from Portugal or Spain, and storytelling. The original storytelling is like what we're doing. It's conversational. It's in Spanish, dichos, sayings. Right. And so a saying that I grew up with is sana colita de rana.
Oh my God, yes.
No sanas hoy, sanas mañana. I don't know if you heard that.
I did. I use it.
It's I don't know what it means to you, but to me it's a blessing, right? Like your grandma,
feel better.
you hurt yourself, and as a kid, and your grandma does a blessing and says that. Right. So, and I remember, like, where does that come from? Right? And it comes from Portugal or Spain, apparently. The oral storytelling, but back in the day, in order to convey a story with some permanence, you had to pay for ink and parchment.
Okay.
Right. And so the tilde, its symbol, came about where if it was a common dicho, a common saying, they would just put the first word, then the tilde symbol, and then the last word of that dicho, of that saying, so that people still could convey. They would, that's that dicho, that's that saying. So you didn't have to spend as much on ink and parchment.
Yeah, you wouldn't have to spend that much space on the
Got it.
page.
People, it's almost like finish the sentence kind of thing. Is that?
It's like the
is that what-
dot. It's like,
Yes. Okay. Got it. Yes.
Yeah. But it was saving time, right? Because no one has to write it. It's saving money because you're spending less ink, and you're still communicating.
you're still conveying the heart of the story.
And so
Right.
that to us was like, all right,
That's
that's a symbol we can relate with, right?
Yeah.
And so then for a long time on the logo, we tried to put the tilde in the logo. Where can we sneak it in? Into the P, into the leg of the P, into the curl. We tried. And then when we realized, we were like, that's meaningful story to us, right?
Yeah.
That's a value that internally to the company we can hold important. But externally to the company, the tilde is just tilde still.
Right.
So then we agreed that, all right, let's find what symbol represents the company.
and something that's relatable to people, like somewhat identifiable. People like new, but people like familiar. It's a wicked balance.
Yes.
The most commonly seen word in advertising copy in the history of advertising is the word new.
No kidding.
Yes, new.
New
People
podcast.
like new, but if you go and research like
Because new everything. Yeah.
the history of design, all these designers that design new innovative things in the history of design, it's balancing something that's new with something that's familiar and finding that sweet spot of balance where people go like, oh, that's new, but it's something that I can still wrap my brain and my heart and my spirit around. That's the magic.
That sounds like magic, actually.
New but familiar.
Yeah, anytime you're making a new recipe now, right?
Right.
New and then something familiar.
No kidding. I got to add cumin on everything because I'm Hispanic, right? So that's funny. Oh my god. So Angel, you're directing. You've been basically learned a lot about everything, marketing, creative. What is it about creativity that you like?
Well, one, I was just born this way, so I was the kid that would get bullied for staring off into space as a kid, into trees, and called stupid or whatever but what I was doing was paying attention to like the negative spaces in between the branches that made an interesting shape of an animal or something. It's like, oh, look at that, and nobody else would see it but me, right?
Right.
But I do believe. I believe there's a God, and I believe that I'm not God, and I believe that if we're made in the higher power's image in some fashion, that God's the original artist and creator, that we're co-creators in art, and we all have the ability to be creative and have creativity in us.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that. Some people, maybe it comes to them more naturally, and for me, it's just the way my brain goes to first and processes. But I think that we all have a toolbox that we can learn how to utilize the various tools that are in our toolbox. It's there. The tool's already there. It's just a matter of practice and working with it. So I love creativity. I've learned that irregardless of the medium, it could all move. I started as a poet as a little kid, and in third grade, I taught myself guitar and writing songs, and then played in church bands, and then later on, I got into acting through an independent film guy from Peru who was in Nashville that sort of like asked me to come out to an acting workshop, and I just to help him out to fill a space or something, and his name is Yuri Kunza. So Yuri, here's a shout out to you.
Shout out to Yuri.
He runs a Hispanic Chamber of Commerce there in Nashville to this day. He's
Awesome.
a very influential person. But thanks to Yuri, I got into acting and commercial acting, and I don't know. I look at like what coding. I look at what Gurk does, and to be able to do what he does, it takes creativity. Right, to build something from nothing. All these startups, right, in crypto space, it takes creativity to be able to build something from nothing.
Yeah, I think, and creativity can mean many things, right? I think when Angel and I met in December, and we started finally, I guess it'd been a week, and we're like, look, we're gonna have to build something, and I guess you can build video, but I'm gonna have to bite the bullet on that one and build tech. But I told him I'd build an app in 10 years. 10 years ago, I started a startup called Yapster, which eventually became Riff, at NYU. And I raised money and I coded and I learned to code from the interns I got and convinced to work for me. But after that journey, I hadn't coded an iPhone app in, I don't know, 8.5 years.
Oh
And
my
so
gosh.
talking to Angel, I'm like, all right, Angel, I'm gonna code this, but I haven't done it in 8.5 years.
Everything's
right?
changed.
It's gonna be, there's gonna be change.
I'd be like, I trust you, partner, because I can't do that.
But I'm like, look here, you got your creativity. Let me use the creativity I have to figure out how I'm gonna learn this from scratch again, right? And it almost felt like learning from scratch.
Right.
But I think in coding, it's about almost like you said, right? Taking the familiar and then taking something new and lining it up, right? And we do this often when we learn new languages, right? When we learn verbally new languages, we know the language we know,
Yes.
and then we convert it into a word we know in the new language.
Yeah, you map it.
And then we map it, and then we do it. And so at the beginning, that's what it's like, right? And you're like, I don't know this word, but I know this word, right? And to some people, that might not be creativity, but in coding, it does come out, right? Like, I don't know the right way to do this, but I know it will put the image on the phone. I know it's going to make a video. And you just learn to put the right blocks together to make a pretty picture, right? And so I think creativity shows up in different ways for different people. But I also think people understand creativity based on their community, right? So what would be, I don't know. I know you're a soccer player, but football is the one, American football is the one I know better, right? So in football, there are plays, I'm a Kansas City Chiefs fan, there are plays that they run that are creative. People would look at them and be like, Andy Reid, which is the coach for the Kansas City Chiefs, how did you come up with that?
Mm-hmm.
If you're not from the football community, if you're not a Kansas City Chiefs fan, be like, it looks like football. Doesn't look creative to me. It just looks like a game.
They're playing.
They're just playing.
Yeah.
So I think creativity, and we say beauty's in the eye of the beholder, right? And there's that saying, but it's comes from the fact that creativity is viewed from the person in that community, right? Someone that has to have similar perspective. And I think that's another one of our values, right? Is community. When we create video, when we create our brands in general, when we talk about it, community is important. And I think creativity and community are tied.
Yeah. There's a lot of words in there like creativity, community, storytelling, and all these different facets of it. And I think part of when we started talking about like what connected me to you when you were explaining what your thoughts were about storytelling and about making creativity better in storytelling is like what existed out there was content that was entertaining maybe, but it definitely didn't feel purposeful.
Right.
Sometimes it's just, I don't know, it's mush sometimes.
Yeah. No.
Stupid. There's
a lot of silly videos, right?
Yeah, correct.
And that's okay sometimes.
That's okay sometimes, right? I think communities today have been bonded, and I think TikTok and Instagram have proven community, and we talk about creativity, they're all formed on these funny, good music, good memes, art, nice filter videos.
Yes.
The problem is they're not telling any stories, usually. Right? It's a fun dance.
Yeah.
It's a fun dance, a good song, but where's the story? What am I learning? What do I learn about you? Right? And I think that was what's lacking. And when Angel and I are talking, well, maybe brands don't know what they need to say or what to say. So they're like, I'm going to make a funny video because I can copy someone to do that.
Yes.
I don't know what to do for an explainer video. What do I tell them? How do I say it?
That's what I would ask. It's like, what do you want me to say? Like, if you want me to explain it, like, I wouldn't know what, I mean, I'm pretty creative and I can kind of come up with things on the spot, but that even for me makes it even harder because I want to make sure that it looks good for you too.
Yeah. And I think in the beginning, that's the realm we went. We did get that feedback, and we took the angle of let's build an app to help businesses create better storytelling content.
Mhm.
And I think the way I would summarize what happened from there is that stories are conversations like we're having today. And
Right.
so it can't be a one explainer video, because one explainer video isn't a conversation. It's a one-way street, right? And
Right. Right.
so we need, and today we have the power of tech where we can make many videos, as much videos as we want, as many
Mhm.
videos as we want. And so video has now become short term. That conversation, like we did, right? We had a conversation, I think, 2 days ago?
Mhm.
And 3 days ago, we talked about version 9, and now it's
Mhm.
version 12.
Right.
That conversation is stale. And so conversation has to go back and forth often. And stories are told through conversation. So we're like, okay, we need to build a platform that allows brands and their community to communicate consistently, right? And have a
Okay.
full conversation, not a one-way street. And so that's caused a lot of change in our
So
app. And that's
on the on the community tangent, is, because community is both, business, and you can talk about everybody has a community, right, that they belong to. One of the ones that I belong to is my family, and y'all too.
yeah,
Is there someone in your life that provided that, inspiration, that kind of gave you a little bit of guidance into that?
go for it first.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's a good question. For me, it's my inspirations uh, started with my grandfather on my father's side, who I was lucky enough to be raised by my mom and dad, and have my sister Claudia by my side in Brownsville, Texas, getting into trouble. But I was blessed to have one set of grandparents that helped raise us, and in particular, my grandfather was a larger than life figure for me. He was a very charismatic
Really?
businessman and a community leader. Always very well dressed, very well spoken, spoke perfect English and perfect Spanish, and was an entrepreneur. He started a fencing company called Martinez Fence that put 5 kids through school, and
My gosh.
so I just really looked up to him. And I remember when I was either sick from school or on the weekends, and I had the opportunity to go spend time over at my grandfather's house off of Garfield Street in downtown Brownsville. He would take me to do sales calls. He would go canvassing neighborhoods in a
No
full
kidding.
suit with a hat and his briefcase.
You said you
And
were
I would just
6?
be walking with him down. He would park in a neighborhood, and he would just walk the streets. And he would see somebody that didn't have a fence, and he would just go knock on the door and introduce himself and ask open-ended questions about, safety of kids. Are you concerned that, the car's going by real fast? Like, it was just so neat to see his sales funnel, his old school sales
No
funnel.
kidding, huh?
It just inspired me, and I was wanted to be like him. And as I've gotten older, I've come to have a lot more respect for my father, who has taken a lot of the dichos from my
Mhm.
grandfather that I had forgotten sometimes. And in times that I have struggled and gone through challenge, he would say a dicho that my grandfather would say to him that he would say to me, like, "No te fijas en el paso que has hecho, pero el paso que vas a hacer."
Oh, wow.
He would
That's
say,
deep.
like,
That's
"Don't
good.
look at the steps you
Yeah.
just came from, but look at the steps you're about to make."
Aha.
Right?
Look forward, like,
Look
don't look
forward.
back.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And I think a lot of that has actually even transferred to your kids, right?
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
think that's admirable, right? Entrepreneurs, we talk about community, and you talk about how community is family as well. But I think uh, just from an outside perspective, right? Looking at Angel's family and meeting Angel's family, his whole family is entrepreneurial,
Really?
bottom top,
No kidding, huh?
right?
Yeah.
I don't know if you want to go through that breakdown, but each of your kids,
Yeah, they're definitely independent thinking. all three of them have their own purpose in life. I have three boys, so the youngest one is probably the one has found success as an entrepreneur after failing. He started a business called Classic Candy when he was like in middle school, and he would
No
just
way.
make us take him to Sam's and buy like bags of chips and like
In bulk.
candy in bulk, and then he would split it apart in little zip bags and sell it to kids out of his backpack.
Oh, that is just awesome.
And today he runs.
He's a sneakerhead now, and the fourth bedroom in our house is now like full of shoes.
Oh,
And
no kidding.
He sells collectible shoes, buys and sells collectible shoes. And last year he said he made double what my wife did when she was a teacher.
Oh my gosh.
So, and that was when he was 17. So he's 18 now,
Yeah,
and
My
he's on
gosh.
track to double that.
which is crazy.
Just just so
I mean,
cool.
like a full income off of that, but
he's a hustler, man, for sure.
I sounds like it. Like, yeah, sneakerheads have to be hustlers. You
But
gotta
they're
find the
all-
best
they're all,
ones.
right?
You gotta find.
they're all like that, right? When you're in an environment where you can watch, I guess at that point you're taking leaps and risks to create business, to create change and cause some waves and create companies, then it's only going to happen that the little kid that's growing up is going to be like, man, I can take a leap, right?
Right.
I can start a company. And
Right.
I think my dad's done that. My dad started many companies growing up, and then my uncle has started many companies, and his father, my cousin's grandfather, I think are the people that I've watched them start businesses, successful, not successful. It doesn't really matter, right? It's the
Mhm.
value of they're taking risks all the time, every couple of years on a new business, and you're like,
Right.
what am I doing with my life, right?
Yeah.
And I think that same way of looking at someone in your family take risk all the time allowed me to ask my parents for money and start DJing in high school and then DJing in college, right? And that
You
was
DJ'd in high school?
I DJ'd in high school,
I didn't know this.
junior and
I sh-
senior. Yeah, I mean, we went to high school together, so
I know. I didn't know this. I know you did Organic Gold. I didn't know you DJ'd as well.
I DJ'd so I DJ'd for myself for a long time, and someone that was turning 16, so a sophomore, asked me to DJ for her house party. And I didn't realize that if you DJ for a girl turning 16, all the girls showing up to that party are also turning 16, right?
Yes.
So, I mean, and that's where we were talking on our call, but like, I didn't understand the concept of sales funnels and the concept of marketing back then.
Mhm.
When I do learn about that from either Angel or just now learning through the material we have, I realized that I did it. I don't know how I did it. Got lucky,
Mhm.
but that's how
Mhm.
that worked, right? I DJ'd my first Sweet 16 and then got another 10 Sweet 16s off of that one Sweet 16.
My gosh.
And so that's how that worked. But it's that community and family and growing in an environment where people are taking risk that I do think allows you and inspires you to be like, all right, I could go get a job, and I will at some point. I'm sure I can always have that option. But what do I have to lose right now, right?
Right. Right.
Even today, we were at lunch with hopefully an investor. We'll see, right? And we talked about taking leaps, right? And when you take leaps, there are two ways, I believe. I'm on a stable platform and I take a leap, or I'm on a wobbly platform and I take a leap. And if you're on a stable platform, what that allows you to do is look left, look right, look straight, look back, see where you should jump.
Uh-huh.
Right? Look before you leap, as they say,
Uh-huh.
right? But if it's wobbly, you don't have time.
Gotta
You
go.
look and leap,
Yeah.
right? And I think that's the difference. That I guess I was lucky enough to grow up in a stable family, and I had the time to. Do I want to DJ? Do I not want to DJ? Do I want to do coffee? Not want to do coffee, right? You get those chances in a stable background. I would imagine that probably contributed to why a lot of Angels' sons are so entrepreneurial, right? They
Right.
provided that stable background and that inspiration to take risks and be entrepreneurial, and they got to figure out what makes them tick. And that's
Right.
cool to be around.
Yeah, dude.
And and with Angel, what was your first experience as an entrepreneur? I'm curious about that.
Yeah.
I met your roommate, right? Is that the one? The one with the roommate?
I don't know. I think I've always. My mom tells me stories because I've always had an entrepreneurial bug.
Right.
You know, I think as a kid, my mom tells stories, which is funny because Ben did the same thing. But Ben, when he was a kid, he has like this little, we still have it, this little bench like he would sit on that his grandpa on my wife's side made for him. And he
Okay.
would take a marker and he would put lines to create these little spaces on the bench and then put 50 cents, 25 cents, $1. And then he would take his toys, like his little super soldier toy, like I can't remember, a hero during 9/11, the hero series, right? And he would like, set them down at different price points during garage sales we would have. And I remember telling my mom that, and she was like, you used to do that when you were a kid.
No way.
Yeah. So it was garage sales. Wow. And then I think the first time I felt entrepreneurial was I convinced my parents to start a fireworks to manage a fireworks stand, and we sold fireworks. Right? I think that
you convinced your parents to do that.
Yeah.
You sold them on the idea.
Yeah, it's like, hey, we're going to sell fireworks.
Oh, that is awesome. That's a good business on 4th of July, especially. It's rolling around.
Yeah.
Don't let it go.
Yeah, and I guess my first, big commitment of leaving, let's say, corporate America would be real estate. I got my real estate license and got a partner in real estate, and we grew a small boutique real estate company in Knoxville, Tennessee, to with about 10 agents. And did that for about a year and a half to 2. And, it was a lot of fun, learned a lot. And that's probably the thing that was probably the most impactful for my kids to see me going through that and buying some land and renovating an office space for us to work out of and taking on an investor. And,
it's a good example.
Yeah, it was great. Example. That's a life lesson that worked until it didn't work. And
and rinse and repeat.
Yeah.
Most people don't repeat.
There's an old joke. There's something about there's ships and then there's partnerships, and sometimes neither one of them float.
Oh my God. That's real. That makes sense.
And so there was a point where our partnership didn't float no more, like that broken boat vessel. And so, lessons learned. I went back to corporate America, and then I tried again as a consultant. Actually, that's where I got my raising funds. I was a consultant to some startups and raised some funds for that for a couple startups.
Tell me a little bit about that world, because I am I've been watching, the peak would be as an entrepreneur to be an angel investor. What is that world like?
That's a crazy world.
I don't know. I don't know. That was so I was a casualty of the financial collapse is what kind of got me into that. So I'm a marketing major with a minor in finance. And when I graduated, it was the tail end of a recession, which is the early
2008, early 90s. Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
And so instead of getting into marketing and being a madman and doing advertising, which is what I wanted to do, I ended up using my finance degree and became a banker and was a sports entertainment banker in the Nashville market, and then moved to
sports entertainment.
Yeah, I used to bank professional athletes. And
when you say bank, I'm thinking like you were their agent.
No.
Okay.
So when you have a lot of money, instead of just going and doing banking, where you walk into a branch or you have to call the customer service line or whatever, you get assigned a banker.
Got it.
And a banker has a group of rich people that they basically, help support. I used to call myself the quarterback of their relationship.
Oh, that is amazing.
They love financial relationship.
I would love it.
So, for instance, one of my first clients was Patsy Cline's surviving husband, Charlie Dick. So Patsy Cline's is a country music legend that most known for singing the song "Crazy." crazy for me. So anyway,
Yeah.
but yeah, it was really cool. It was cool to go through that. But my experience of
Angels.
angel or consulting in that space was I didn't know what I was doing. I just saw some of this through the eyes of my rich clients, of them making investments and stuff, and learned it
Mhm.
that way.
Mhm.
And then helping, I just introduced some people that had money to people, startups that needed money. I was like, hey, here, and then get a percentage of that, as a consulting fee. So
No
that was
kidding.
my experience. I
I
don't know.
think,
Actually, I don't even
That's a
know what. That's the way it worked for me.
I
that's a
mean,
cool
it worked
experience.
differently for me, right? Like,
Yeah.
I think I raised over 120K, something like that.
Nice.
But you raise it like 5, 10, 15K at a time, right? And I think for those 12 to 18 months, it's almost like a ticking clock, right? You have your
Mhm.
interns and employees that show up to work every day, and you're like, if I don't find 10K, they can't pay their rent, right? Like
Right.
it's a ticking time, and you have to invest into it, which is odd, right? You're trying to get investors, but now you have to invest time to get investors. The problem
Mhm.
with that is that's time you're not investing in product,
Yeah.
Right.
right? And so what it's like is every day you wake up in a perfect world and you have a product and you're getting to be data driven and problem driven and you're seeing what's happening on your platform. You're like, I should do this and I should do that. But then you also need the money. And if you don't have the money, you can't solve the data driven business problem.
Right.
So then you're always defaulting to going and fundraising. And what that means is going to the local coffee shop and then emailing this angel investor and that angel investor and making a pitch deck and sending the pitch deck and then going to like 20 coffees and getting nothing. And then sometimes you go back to back and you get funds and you don't know. So you can never say no, right? You can never say,
Right.
sorry, next time. You just like, hey, maybe this time. And so you keep going. And that's how it was. You go to all these coffee shops and their houses, and you're like, this is what I think the company's going to be worth. This is what it is. And you got to sell them the dream. And then from there, I think it's just rich people lottery tickets, right? I don't
Mhm.
think there's enough someone can tell you about their idea or their
Yeah.
company to tell you the full story, right? Because it would take so much time.
Correct. Yeah.
So from an angel investor perspective, I guess where we're going and where we've talked about is keeping it simple, right? Angel investors ideally usually care about just the finance, right?
Mhm.
And if
Bottom
you
line.
want the story's online, the story's on the
Right.
website. Let's
Right.
just talk finance. If you give us this is what we're going to do with it. And this is why we think that will make us successful for X, Y, and Z. And I think that's how this time we're approaching it. And I think uh, hopefully that allows us to be quicker
Yeah.
on the fundraising and then allows us to focus more on product. But I
Well,
think
it's
that's what happened.
yeah. Well, it sounds like y'all have like a symbiotic partnership. Like y'all help each other out, and y'all kind of support. I mean, I've even saw y'all like kind of bicker a little bit about what we were talking about earlier, and it's honestly, I think that's how the best partnerships are built.
Well,
And huh.
partnerships are based off, I would think, those two things, right? So trust, investment of time, money, whatever, investment, and then the last is value, right?
Yeah.
So I have the trust that Angel's not just going to disappear from the country tomorrow, right? I have that trust. And then Angel and I both commit time and money, almost everything we have, right? So the product and the company. So we have that trust. And then the last part is values, right? I mean, we like the bicker, but at the same time, if your values don't align, that bicker will never end, right? You'll
Right.
never be able to be on the same page.
Yeah.
So I think you need those three things to make sure that you can function, right? People want to trust that you're going to be there and you're invested.
Right. Right.
And
Right.
then
You're not gonna just leave and disappear with the money and what you've heard
money or no
stories, I'm
money,
sure.
just disappearing sucks, right?
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
that was important to me. I
Yeah.
think when Angel and I talked, I was like, look, I did this by myself once.
Right.
And
Yeah.
it's crazy. It's a crazy life, right? You can't take a day off because the company depends on it. But when
Correct.
there's two, I think Angel got COVID during this time, and
You got COVID?
I didn't get COVID during this time, but I needed a break, right? Coding
Right.
12, 15 hours, you can only do that so long, right? And so I can take a day
Oh, you
and be
said
like,
coding.
yes,
Did you say COVID or coding?
coding.
Coding. Oh, I
He
thought you
got
said you
COVID.
got
I
COVID.
coded.
Yeah, but after being boosted and everything and avoiding COVID and masking up, I ended up getting COVID. I guess the Omicron.
And he couldn't be functional for a couple days, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
I still think I had lingering kind of like stuff from it.
It's hard. But when you're a single founder, your business tanks almost if you get COVID or you're sick or out for a couple of days.
Mm-hmm.
I think the part that works for us is that we can take a day like, hey, partner, today I'm either not feeling it. I got the situation I need to take care of.
Yeah.
I need a day, right? I need you to continue on with business,
moving something forward
and growing, but I need the day. Mm-hmm. And we learned that we can do that when there are two people that are invested as much as we are. And I think that's why that works, that hopefully we're not burning out that way, right? We're able to keep the same passion and keep the same time, because when something important comes up, we are able to step away and still grow the company at the same time.
Right.
I think that's the part that works.
Yeah,
and that's that trust, right? That even if I'm not there, I know how Angel's going to make the decisions on the same value. So I'm not going to come back to like a whole new logo and come, like creativity.
Got a tilde above the P.
Yeah.
we're a good fit. We're a good fit. And I think also when you're talking about how an angel investing and all that stuff works, my understanding, what I've seen is, and we're not angel investors, but we are familiar in research and stuff. It's all about fit too. Those folks out there that have money that are looking to make an investment, they understand that 9 out of 10 times the investment they make is going to fail and not have any return, but they're hoping that one investment out of 10
covers the rest,
and they make a return and it's purposeful for them and they get something out of it also. And so I think if they've gotten burned on some investments, let's say investing in movies, and they're like, I'll never invest in movies. And if someone comes to them and says, hey, I have a movie I want you to invest in, they're like, no way.
No,
like, that's not my appetite. But somebody else might be down for that. Like they're like, I'm looking to invest in a movie that's about whatever.
So that would be kind of So that would be what happens kind of like in Shark Tank, huh? That's why they say, I'm out.
Like I don't know anything about this space. Whatever. So like for us, we have to find investors that we're looking for strategic investors, right? That have an appetite for marketing technology and the space we're in, and have some level of understanding for what we're about, and have a values connection.
And that goes to community again, right? It's about sharing those values, right? I think we are building community, right? Whether from this podcast, whether from the friends and family we have, or the event tomorrow. Everywhere we do go, it does seem we attract a couple new people that are like, I don't know if I'm going to be helpful. I don't know if I can invest. I don't know if I'm the right fit. But I just want to pay attention to your story. I'm going to follow your story.
Yeah.
And if you say something or need something, you give a shout and we'll figure out if we can make it work, right? And that's community.
Yeah.
Right? And that's technically what we hope incentivize prompt video to work, is that there are all these people that are following your story and asking you questions, and that one question that they need help for somehow speaks to you, and you're like, I want to send them a video about this topic, right? I want to answer this question. And so community is super important, and I think
super important.
We learned by traveling too, right? So Angel and I have gone now to Dallas, Houston, San Antonio, and we're in Austin, right? So currently we're in Austin. So we've been hitting all the, I guess, Angel, it's a Texas Manifesto.
Texas Startup Manifesto.
Startup Manifesto.
Saying that we're all a big tribe of folks that are being innovative, trying to solve problems, that are starting up, and all these communities, and we're all within a day's drive of each other.
And we believe that if we actually tackle each of these cities, that we will attain mass enough to be a successful startup, right? And that's what we believe in. But I also think that community is so tightly knit to Texas, right? So I have a friend, Carlin, which shout out to Carlin.
Shout out Carlin.
Fayetteville, Arkansas, and her dog Brody. Hey, and I guess the more you talk about community and the more you talk about your product, the more people come back and talk to you, right? And so I was talking to her last week, and she was like, "Hey, I went to a startup crawl for one of the first times, and this is what I saw." And we got to talk about the startup she's seen and the organization she was a part of, and then she was like, "You guys can come here," and I'm like, "Yeah, maybe next year we can," right? And that's community connecting you to a whole new environment. Maybe Angel and I just did Dallas, Austin, San Antonio, and Houston, but now we can do Fayetteville too, right? Like that's
Right.
also an option now, right? And the only way that works is people extending their hand, the same way you did to us, right? Right? Like it's not like you're always searching for the next thing or the next person to talk to. Sometimes they come to you.
Yeah.
And you need to take that risk. And that's how that works, right? So you took a risk to message me.
100%.
We talked about the podcast, but at the same time, I've been listening and liking your podcast stuff. So I knew I wanted to be on the radar, but like, that's how it works.
Yeah.
Is
Send
people questions, send people answers. If they don't want to answer, they're not going to answer. But it's not like you didn't have an answer today. It's not like you lost anything, right? You didn't have an answer today, but you might get an answer, which makes it all the more worth it.
Right. And speaking on the podcast, I mean, I've had more of like, I ask people and I try to keep it open ended with them because I don't want to just shut them off because it's like, I'm growing and stuff like that. I want to make, I'm starting this. This is a startup. I guess you could call this a startup.
Yeah, it is.
So thank you guys for being here and then supporting this for me, actually.
No problem.
Yeah. So, I brought up the partnerships earlier because you guys mentioned two big companies yesterday that brands that y'all wanted to talk about, and I wanted to know a little bit because I'm curious of what it is that you do with them. How did they work with you?
You can take from there.
Yeah.
So I guess one of the ones I came to Austin because I started working for Whole Foods, right? And I think we talk a lot about brand and values. Whole Foods has a lot of good values, right? They believe in helping people. They believe in organic food, right? And sustainability. And they believe in transparency in the store. A lot of their color coding in the store is to help customers understand what's on the shelf and stuff like that.
Really? I didn't know that. I don't go to Whole Foods. I should.
Hey, it's an experience, right? I think before COVID, at least the one in Austin, the headquarters has a wine tab and beer tab, and you can hold a glass while you shop. It's a good ambiance. It's fun.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah.
It's a fun experience. But I think it goes to, all right, I wanted to work for that kind of company, right? Like, I don't know what they're doing, but I know I want to work for some company that believes in that. Then you talk to them and you figure out, oh, they're trying to bring technology into the store, right? I think one of the products they first talked to me about was they wanted to do facial recognition when customers walked in the store, so that you don't have to use your credit card. You can walk in, pick something out, scan it, and walk out.
Okay. Oh, because Whole Foods is owned by Amazon.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, got it.
That's where that went, right? And so I think Amazon bought Whole Foods, and I think they went through a couple of years of understanding who Whole Foods is, how do they make tech, and understanding who's on the team. And then the year I joined, they started to shift. They were like, look, Whole Foods, you're Whole Foods. But now you need to become Whole Foods Amazon, right? Or Amazon Whole Foods. And so a lot of Amazonian practices were being transferred to Whole Foods. And I guess I got to see that culture struggle, right? This homegrown, Whole Foods is from Austin. It has an Austin vibe to it. Almost like hippie culture, right?
Right, yeah, like California. I was gonna say,
it's relaxed, it's organic,
right?
And then you're coming in with this Amazon, which is very data driven, product driven, and they're like, "What do the numbers say?" And Whole Foods is like, "We're happy. That's what the numbers say, right?" And they're like, "Well, that's not what we think the numbers say, right?" And that battle, and I think that's unique to our perspectives of working with different brands. Sprint, Cox Automotive, and in this case, Whole Foods, is that you, through experiences with working with larger brands, you understand where you're going to have to go, which is understanding people, merging these communities of people that think very differently, and how you're going to have that conversation and how awkward that conversation is, right? And saying like, I don't care if we're happy. I want numbers, right? And I think that's where that conversation goes, is that in the beginning, I started my first startup when I was 18, 19,
Yes.
right? I would be like, why do people even work? Like, what's the point of a job, man? Like, go start a company. Why do people get a job, right? Like, I used to think like that. What are you gaining from a job? You could just start a company. And then I think the last 10 years or so, or 8.5 years, I started to experience things through the larger brands that I'm like, all right, if I didn't have this experience, I wouldn't know what I wanted different, right? Or how to, when we do hopefully grow through the 3 Billy Club, right? The 3 billion club. What do you want to do differently, right? How do you challenge culture differently in that situation?
Or what's the culture we want to create in this company?
And how do you do that when there's only 2 people? And then how do you do that when there's
many people?
There's Amazon
thousands.
Version of people, right? And I think, Angel, you've had your own experience of working with the Boy Scouts of America and a variety of brands.
Yeah, I mean, banking. I one of my first sort of big when I got into that, the whole sports entertainment, got exposed to that. It started as Nations Bank in Fort Worth, Texas, and became Bank of America. And I was with that brand for 7 years. And I remember one of my mentors, Doswell Brown, having to call me when I was working out my market segmentation strategy, which as a marketer, I believe in market segmentation. And the way I learned it and the way I still use it today is you segment relationships and tribes and people that you're engaging with in 2 spaces: the people that get it and the people that don't get it. And so in banking, people that there was a lady that pulled up to my bank that needed servicing, right? That pulled up in a Jag and like nice fur coats, and like she's like PhD and she's very refined, but she has no idea what a home equity line of credit is or what an investment is, because her husband covered all that, right? So she's sophisticated, but she doesn't get, like, her husband passed away, and so she's now in charge of having to do finance, so she doesn't get it, right? So I put her into that category because I'm going to have to educate in this process for the sales cycle, right? But now I have to sub-segment: does she value me or does she not value me?
Okay.
And if she doesn't value me and doesn't get it, those are the clients that I would fire, because they're poison to the...
Wait. So you said if she values, okay, if she gets it and doesn't value you.
No, if she doesn't get it,
if she doesn't get it
and she doesn't value me.
Okay, yeah, that's
an easy.
That's an easy. And so I remember having to do that, getting to the point where I applied that to my book of business I was growing, and I would start firing clients that...
No way. How does that go?
Well, you get a call from your boss, Doswell Brown, and says, "Angel, did you just fire a customer?" I was like, what did you hear? I was like, I gave them a list of competitor banks they can go to. I was like,
that is awesome.
I was like, and that's the other cool thing about the tech side of things, because it was neat to see a brand develop they had a proprietary client relationship management platform,
and
it's
called CMS.
A CMS that would show a banker, in this case, my book of business. And as I would grow it, they would say, "Angel, like 20% of your clients are in certificate of deposits that are losing money." And what I would do as part of my strategy is that I would give them bumps on their certificate deposits, give them a higher rate. I had like the ability to do that. Flexibility.
I didn't. Okay.
But I would do that in order to entice a sale on another product that was a higher margin product, like charging fees if they moved over their investments to Bank of America.
Okay.
And so, things like that. But the system,
I'm trying to follow the best that I can.
Yeah, it's
This
almost
is
like selling two
complicated stuff.
products, though, right?
Yeah.
So
Right.
it's selling two products. One, you don't have a high margin profit, and the other one you do.
Yeah.
Right?
The cost
Right.
the cost for the bank to carry that product is this, and they were paying interest that was higher than what it didn't make sense. You were upside
Okay,
down.
got it. Okay, got it.
They were losing money.
The goal is to get as many fees from
Yeah.
fees from the customer, right?
But their technology couldn't track all of that as sort of like an overarching what do you call it? A blanket, a relationship profitability.
Right? It's almost like if a car company gave you floor mats for free, but they charge you an extra $5,000 on the car. Does it really matter?
Yeah. No, it doesn't.
That's what
It's like squishing a balloon. There's a balloon, right? The little.
They would look and they would say, "Angel, you're giving away like 45 free leather mats.
You're losing money on this client." I was like, "Yeah, but this client is married to this billionaire, and that person has money over here, and I'm in talks of moving that relationship. So I'm making relationship here." To be able to get this relationship over here.
Yeah, I'm making money on this. God. So stop caring about the 45 weather man.
Right. I'm going to bring in $1 million.
Yeah. I'm making money on the car that offsets that.
But eventually, technology caught up to where they could look at the profitability of every single customer and their household and track, right?
And that experience in a brand is different, right? Because, it goes to the same struggle, right? It's the measuring success, right? As tech comes up, doesn't matter what brand, banking or Whole Foods,
it's all problem solving.
Everyone needs to measure their success, right? So Amazon's like, hey, Whole Foods, we started to gain enough technology to measure you, and you're down in this category, this category, this category. Please fix it. And they're like,
right.
They're happy. Well, you got to start measuring, right? And same thing in banking.
Yeah, there's measurements.
They weren't measuring in the beginning. They didn't have the technology to measure what all the bankers were doing. And then once they got it, they had to make changes and be disruptive.
Yeah, exactly.
And so that's a whole new experience, right? How technology changes different industries, different brands, different experiences.
And so you touched on, okay, so this person has money and then this person has way more money. You were talking a little bit yesterday, you're doing some documentaries also, Angel, on billionaires?
No. Part of my past experience, mostly with the Boy Scouts of America, they run a leadership recognition program in San Antonio called the Good Scout Luncheon, and every year they honor a leader in the community that's typically somebody of stature that a lot of times comes with, when you have success, money, right?
Yeah.
So I was privileged to be able to interview a number of people for the Scouts, and that it was really cool. I feel like I've been interviewing wealthy people as a banker for years. I just never, I didn't the camera of my eyes.
Now you have to use real cameras.
Yeah, but to use real cameras to mic up, like Mr. Najum, Harvey Najum is a gentleman in San Antonio that's of stature that was honored. Also, Peter Holt, the Mays family. There's a bunch of folks in that community that I had the privilege of being able to photograph and or interview, documentary style.
Okay.
Scouts. And the cool thing that I discovered when I was doing that was a lot of these folks, they didn't know who I was initially, maybe, right? But the power of a film director to be able to tell somebody of stature, okay, you're going to sit here. Oh, you need to remove this jewelry because it jangles and I can hear it in the mic. Or, I'm going to ask you these questions, please, and they would follow the direction.
Right.
Weird power dynamic, right?
It's weird power dynamic. These are folks,
right?
That are used to telling people what to do.
Telling people what to
Correct.
do. And usually don't like to be.
When you have stature, you have power. When you have power, you can tell people what to do.
Yeah. And so,
but it was power by association of the situation, right?
Yeah,
So
Okay,
situational
okay.
power.
they might tell.
And I don't mean power cynically. I'm sorry. I mean
No.
power like yeah.
No.
But like, it's not the. So if it was financial, maybe they would have power, right? Or if it's whatever their business is, they would have power. But because it came to camera and documentary, something they're not,
Which is what Angel knew. Yeah.
yeah, something they're not an expert at,
Right.
they had to submit that power to Angel,
Correct.
right? Like, I don't know where
Correct.
to. I don't know what to do. I know
Right.
the answers to all these other things in life that I'm the most powerful person in the world to do, but in this specific situation, I am less powerful to you, and that's interesting.
It's a weird. No, it is weird. I'm sure it's weird.
Yeah,
And
Or odd,
I think
in a
all of
sense.
those experiences go into where we are now with prompt video, you know.
Understanding how to talk to people, how people that receive a prompt are going to be in different walks of life, right? Everyone you send a prompt to, I want you to answer this question, and this question. They might not be the same life. They might not be in the same place, right? And they're all going to be answering the same exact question through video. It's directing all these people from different walks of life and different places, but somehow our community, something's joining them to be community.
Correct. I mean, it drew me to you guys because I've always seen Gurkaran. Obviously, I just met Angel, but I've always seen Gurkaran working at space, and then I always seen him hanging out with people, congressmen, I don't know who, and it's just awesome. And I'm just like, man, I want to do that too, you know. So
I do think anyone can almost do anything these days, right? Information is free these days. Right? I mean, people monetize and create businesses off information.
Correct.
But for the most part, if you Google enough or you YouTube enough, you can find out answers to almost anything.
Right.
You can reach almost anybody for anything, and just with a specific ask. If you have a specific ask and try to find a right fit, I mean, you can reach anybody.
Yeah, I think, and I learned that amongst us, right? So Angel is very specific when he makes LinkedIn requests, right?
Yeah.
He's like, hey, I'm going to make this long message. I'm going to ask someone to connect with me on LinkedIn. And it works a lot.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I did also find out if I just request certain people, they just say yes anyways.
Correct. Yeah.
Right? And so then I think oftentimes I've started adding like news reporters. I've started adding investors and VCs, and I'm just requesting, right? I know I'm not ready. We're not ready to send a pitch deck for that kind of stuff yet. But when we're ready, I already have a line of communication to you. It's an open channel now.
I'm not going to lie to you. That's exactly what I did with LinkedIn too.
There you go. And
like the exact same thing, because especially with Dallas, like the whole area, because I'm like, okay, these people are allowing people to connect with professionals. They care about their, the image and want to make sure they look good. So I'm like, okay, and they're all in Dallas, and so there's like a little request thing that's like people from Dallas, and I just got go click, because I want to meet as many people here.
I think off the same thing we've learned while traveling. There's, I mean, people say this in dating and everything, but the more times you see someone, the more likely you are to say, okay, right?
Right.
Angel and I, like we were saying, have been doing the Texas Manifesto, so we've been going to Dallas and Houston and San Antonio and even Austin events. We've probably been to all of the startup events, and we're trying to go as much as we can, right? And a lot of those people are mixed. Like, everyone knows everyone somehow, right? I think Austin has a Friday. Every Friday they have a startup happy hour at Central Machine Works. And that's awesome. It's off of Meetup. Anyone can join. Anyone can show up. And then Dallas, we went to Capital Factory, launched an opening for their Capital Factory in Dallas. In Houston, in the Ion, they have a cup of Joey
every Friday morning.
And all these entrepreneurs, investors.
And these are the same people that kind of hang out in the same. They're usually the same ones.
They're in the same industry per se. They're all in startup world. They're all very different. They're lawyers, they're investors, they're realtors. There's all these people, but there are all these events that are free, that are accessible, that if you request on LinkedIn the right people, they would have posted about.
Yeah.
And you would have found out about, and you could have gone and you could have met the investor or the lawyer or the whoever you're going after based on your business.
Now you're closer to the person.
Now you're closer, and you're one step closer to knowing. And same, that's what we've been doing. And it's brought us some level of success, right? Is that the more times you go to these events and the more events you go to, people see you at different places. Like you were saying, you saw me here and there.
Uh-huh.
The more times you see someone going to those events, the more you associate them
With
with that item. And then that's
uh-huh.
how we actually technically made our first sale, right?
That's awesome.
We went to Dallas and he's seen us enough.
Yeah, it's marketing, and there's so much noise. Like there's so much content out there, and people have choices to watch a Netflix or Google whatever term they want to Google, or like they can. There's so much noise and content that it takes like 13 plus times for someone to like hear some type of message that goes, "Oh, let me pay attention to that."
Yes. In marketing, I know in sales it's like the eighth time or something like that. That's when you usually get like the sale.
Yeah.
And so with marketing, it's definitely more because you're just, I mean, you're trying to
you're counting
make it familiar, kind of like what you were talking about earlier. Make it familiar.
Touches every touch.
Uh-huh.
So like whether you send them an email and then you put, they see an impression on social media, and then they see another impression on social media,
and watch a story, and see you on LinkedIn,
and then they get your newsletter again, and then they're like, oh, like these guys are onto something, or like, oh, like they want to, oh, that's what that started.
And I think that's what ended up happening, right? There's a guy named Jorge at Capital Factory, and we went to Dallas. It must have been the 13th time he's seen something of ours, and we're there just for the Capital Factory launch. We're like, hey, we're here. This is the product. We're talking about prompt video. We're talking about the power of video. And he's like, can I see the app? And we show him the app, and we show him the updates. I think that one was version 7. So long old, it's better now. But even then, he was like, "Wait, can I just give?" He took out his credit card and was like, "Can I give you my credit card now? Can we do it now?" And we're like,
"Oh my
gosh, let's wait." Like,
we
want to wait till we get this right, but we appreciate that you're ready to make it go, right? that it's so valuable to you that you're ready to leap and pull out your wallet and pull out your credit card, and you just want to get it going right now. And I think,
how does that make you feel? Like, what do you feel? Or what does your instinct tell you? I guess your experience instinct.
Purposeful. I feel very purposeful. I feel so I'm a believer in Joseph Campbell's hero's journey in storytelling. And for those that don't know Joseph Campbell, he's a professor that did a lot of research on the different cultures around the world, and spirituality and things in these cultures and places that what is a unifying thing, right, of religion and culture, and it was story. And all his findings you can read about in a book. He wrote a lot of books, but one is called A Hero with a Thousand Faces. Okay. And he became buddies with
Lucas, right?
Yeah, with Lucas. George Lucas.
The Star Wars.
And George used a lot of that research to build arguably the most culturally relevant, successful
epic
story ever in Star Wars.
Yes, epic. Like why every movie started doing like long sequences like that.
Yeah. So so I'm a believer in that, and I utilize that in storytelling structure.
Yeah, and we've adopted it.
Yeah, and that's part that's built into the app. Like that's part of our values too. And I think that when I see things like these, it seems like it's coincidence, or it's like things that are happening. It's like I feel like we're in our story, we're in our own journey, and so it's like. Even I think at this point, if we wanted to sort of like self-destruct and derail, we couldn't. Like we're on this track.
It's going somewhere
that's laid out before us. And to me, it's a mystery. We have choice, because I do believe that God is sovereign, but I do know that we have choice. So we could choose to derail,
but if you try. Right, if you try and you put that effort and investment, and
you'll probably get it
every day to grow, we do feel that you're on a journey, right? You are our hero, and I think the other thing cinematically that came to me is Angel often talks about how if you do watch certain TV shows or certain movies, they sort of flip flop. Every bad scene is followed by a good scene, and every good scene is followed by a bad scene. Never lets you feel one way for too long. And so I think all those types of concepts and philosophies help, right? And as an entrepreneur, you can't have just good things happen to you. You need the bad to flip good, to flip back to the bad, to keep the story exciting.
The yin and the yang.
When things go wrong, you're like, all right, now something bad happened. I'm waiting for the good now. Flip the page, right? Go to the next scene. Let's get something better coming.
I was so y'all literally touched on the next question that I was going to ask you. Where do you see Prompt TV going?
So Prompt Video,
what does the story look like?
So Angel often talks about another philosophy from Angel.
Okay.
Yeah.
Writing your story backwards.
Yeah.
That's apparently a very common thing in film, right? You write the ending and then you write everything from that point.
Yeah, a lot of great storytellers and script writers, book writers will develop their characters first, right? And then they'll make a decision of how the story ends. And they'll say, this is a tragedy. The boy does not get the girl. Romeo and Juliet, like everybody dies, right? Right. Or they're like, no, the boy does get the girl. Like, and it ends with a wedding scene and everybody's happy. And so then all they've got to do, well, it's not that easy, but all they got to do now is build points of conflict between the beginning of the story and the end. So the guy goes to the bar, he sees this girl, he falls in love at first sight, he goes to talk to her, and then she's got a boyfriend, right? And he's like, and so it's like,
you write your story that way, right?
Yeah, and then the next time they run into each other, like it's another, like he doesn't know, he can't speak up, like, so you just keep on putting blocks, right? And in life, like we're in this life, we don't have to make up the blocks. The conflict comes to
it. Happens.
Like we're in a pandemic or post-pandemic. We got war in Ukraine. We got Uvalde shootings. We got all this craziness that affects us as a greater community. Yeah. We have COVID. We have we need money to be able to do things right as individuals and business. Like we need knowledge. We need feedback. So
crypto market crashing.
Yeah, market crashing. Recession. So these are all, life throws these things at us.
So we only got to build the good.
Yeah, right? We just got to
the bad comes from external. We got to be the good. And I think the story backwards is financially the $3 billion. Right, that's Angel and I's.
$3
billion.
Okay, what is this $3 billion thing that you talked? Because you touched it earlier.
To us means that Angel gets $1 billion, I get $1 billion, and
the investors get $1 billion.
Right, that's what we want. That's the story. That's the end of the story. The boy gets the girl. Right, but I think from there, what really matters to Angel and I, and we talk about all the time, right? It goes to that values. Is the money doesn't matter. The money, the $3 billion only matters because I think when Angel and I looked at tech startups, once you cross $3 billion, it looks like there's a bunch of red tape and bureaucracy. It's not fun anymore. Right. So we had to come up with, where do we draw the line?
That's our exit.
No matter what happens, at $3 billion, we're out. And that's what we know for.
And you say you're out, you sell it?
Ideally.
Yeah, we sell it.
Yeah.
It's taken public.
Someone else does that, but we know at $3 billion, Angel and I are out, right? But the part that we have to write is, what is the impact?
Everything.
And so we talk about story, right? And we talk about the value of story. We talked about prompt video. Prompt video allows communities to literally ask questions to get videos of a specific kind from their community and have a conversation, right? And so, at least in my eyes, and I think Angel shares a lot of that, is we want communities to be talking, and we want brands to be talking, and we want, whether you have a startup, you have a nonprofit organization, you have a movie coming out, a product, a restaurant, we want you to send them a prompt, get them to answer questions that help your business, help your brand, help your story grow, and then help them, right? In return, take that feedback and help them. Right, and ask them more questions so you can learn more about them and they can learn more about you.
The feedback loop.
Our heart is to impact community, in particular the small business community. Like my abuelito, my grandfather, right? Was a small business owner. He was successful in a lot of ways, but towards the end of his life, he struggled with his business, couldn't keep up with technology and different things. And the truth is, there was a point that he ended up having to work at McDonald's before he died. That weighs heavy on me. And I helped also launch a Hispanic Chamber of Commerce in East Tennessee, and I was privy to the plight of a underserved community and small businesses and stuff. And that just and even today, I mean, you read about it, you see it. I know stories. As I did some business canvassing, I ran into some news stories of some ladies that run their businesses that they're a couple months away from going under, right? And it's sad, it's heavy.
But they can't communicate that.
Who
do they communicate that to?
They need tools. They need tools to today's time to be able to connect with their community, to be able to grow revenue. And I think a lot of people don't realize the majority of U.S. small business owners make like less than $20,000 a year, and they really struggle. And
100%.
although our product we're going to be able to offer different levels where we'll have eventually an enterprise level to be able to take care of the big brands like Nike or whatever. Like we always want to be able to have a free version. We want to be able to pour into communities, diverse communities, underserved communities.
And make sure
that's what got you there in the first place, kind of thing.
Yeah, and make sure that they can tell their story, right? Good, bad. I mean, we've talked about story being good and bad, right? But if no one knows about it, it's that story of like a tree falling in a forest and no one hears it.
You don't hear it, yeah.
Like all these companies, they should matter, right? Brands and families. And we want people to share stories and make videos to tell their story and not feel stupid on camera, right? And be able to be like, all right, I know what to say. I know the story I need to tell. I'm going to open prompt video and I'm going to ask people to tell their story, or I'm going to ask and create a prompt to tell my story. And I think that's where we see the vision, is making sure people tell stories and communicate. And we see that most effectively in communities, right? Underserved communities, but whatever community bonds you, that's the community that needs to be served. Today we're on a podcast. You have your own community, right?
Yeah.
I know you say it's startup. Startups all have their community, right? There are people that you could reach out today that will listen no matter what. There are people we will reach out to today that will listen no matter what. And they form a community because we're bonding them, right?
Correct.
Is bonding them. And so it's important to move. I mean, Angel and I will probably send out prompts and be like, hey, what do you think about the podcast? What can we do differently? How can we help? Right? And get those answers and then do something about it, right? Get that story from them, tell them our story, and then react.
And you're using your own product that you built from the ground up.
And I know that you're in the financial services space. So I think one of the questions I think that I would start with when I would engage potential clients, the bank, was did they have a plan in place for when they pass away? Do they have a will? And sometimes they wouldn't. They didn't want to deal with that. They hadn't really thought about that.
I'm not dying.
You know that if you don't have a plan in place, in this case, when I was in Tennessee, it's like the state of Tennessee already has one. It's called probate. So whether you think you have a will, you don't have a will, you do, and you're gonna lose it. And it sucks. Like that plan, the default plan. So I think in the same space of storytelling, some folks are like, hey, if you don't tell your narrative story and control your story, somebody else will control it for you.
Yeah. And so, I mean, that comes to our slogan, right? Which is prompt your story.
Yeah.
Right. That's where it comes from.
Prompt your story.
Prompt your story, right?
Your story.
Make sure that you write the prompt.
You control
the narrative. You ask people for the true feedback. We talked about honest feedback, full circle. And then you take that honest feedback and do what you need to do with it. Either share it or react to it.
Prompt is, I literally just connected that. I don't know why I was thinking prompt, prompt fast, but it's the thing that you read.
Yeah, like a teleprompter.
It can be prompt as asking a question, right? I think
like a writing prompt.
English lit. Yeah, in English lit back in the day, I'm giving you a prompt to write about, right? So prompt can be utilized in multiple aspects, but the idea being it's telling you and helping you to know what to say and what to do.
Okay.
Which is also where the director comes from. That's where that description comes from, right?
Mhm.
Directing videos from your community.
Right.
That's what we do.
And so now we are in version 12 of Prompt TV.
Prompt Video.
And, Prompt Video. Sorry, Prompt. I'm thinking of your.
Happy to make Prompt TV. Give it a minute.
Prompt Video.
Prompt TV coming next year.
There you go. That's how we get to the 3 billion.
Here.
Include me in the 3 billion if you can, please. But is there anything that you wish I would have asked you guys? Anything that I didn't touch on? Anything that you want people to hear? Any lessons that they could take back from this? Anybody that's listening to this that you want to reach out to your audience, maybe?
Angel, you want to go first?
Vote for Angel Martinez for governor of Texas.
I love it.
So we can make an impactful difference that makes sense in communities, right? But that will only happen after we hit the 3 billion club.
That's okay.
Oh, I cannot wait. I cannot wait.
That's awesome. I would probably say give feedback. No one's really scared to be told no, and no one really is turned off by feedback. I don't know if people are, right? I think if you don't attack people, but you attack product, you attack what they're doing, you're like, hey, I think you should do this better. I wish I had this. It's an opportunity for us to build, right? And as builders, as innovators, we're like, cool. You want a new segment on the podcast? Just ask for it, right? I'm sure you wouldn't say no. You want a segment? Top 10 questions about this, top 5 questions about that. Whatever it is, if there's something you want from any brand, any person, just tell them. They want to hear it. Whether you send a message, whether you make a post about it, a tweet about it, just give them the feedback.
They do. You're right.
We want to be the platform that you give feedback from, but it doesn't really matter. The concept is that I don't think people tell and voice their opinions to each other enough to give that feemback, right? And I think just give it to them, right? In a privatized manner. Don't embarrass them.
Right.
Don't
help them with a good heart.
Good heart and in private, but make sure that they get the message. And if you give honest feedback like we started with, it will help everyone. It helps you get it off your chest, get a better experience, and them an opportunity to build. Which love.
Well, ladies and we're gonna say, Angel. Sorry.
No, I just want to because I gave my shameless gubernatorial plug in it.
I'm voting for you.
This is for later, but for now, if there's anybody listening that's a dreamer, especially in underserved communities, there's for them to know that there's power in dreams. There's power in also intellectual property. Dreams you can put those dreams in tangible form, and you can register copyright. You can register trademarks and patents. I've registered copyright for the songs that I've written as a songwriter. This is the first time that I've had an opportunity with this wonderful new best friend and partner to be part of having intellectual property in the form of trademark and patent for Prompt Video. And I want to encourage dreamers out there that there's power in intellectual property, there's power in dreams, to also close the gap with the economic inequality that's out there with a lot of underserved community, to let them know, échale ganas, like go forward.
Échale ganas,
they can do it. Órale, let's do it.
I love it. Well, ladies and gentlemen, y'all had it right here on the Late Podcast. Angel and Gurkaran, the entrepreneur match made in the match made in entrepreneur heaven.
There you go.
Angel investors, and we got documentary. The whole shebang. We got the whole menu on here. Thank you so much for being here, guys. I really, really appreciate you guys being here.